Welcome to the podcast about Alchemy of Bad Time and experiences of Matthew McConaughey for better life.
Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea
Yeah, this concept of taking those tough times, those, challenging moments life throws at us.
and actually transforming them, turning them into something that helps us grow, something positive.
Exactly. We're calling it the alchemy of bad time. It's about finding that gold in the rough stuff.
And who better to explore this with than Matthew McConaughey? I mean, his life, his reflections.
He's definitely lived a fascinating life, obviously in the public eye, but he seems to have thought really deeply about navigating the highs and lows.
Right. So the goal today is to, dig into his experiences, his thoughts, the stumbles and the successes.
And pull out some actual practical wisdom, things you can maybe use in your own life to make things a bit better.
Let's unpack it. There are some really compelling lessons in his journey.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe with that core principle
Hmm.
about commitment.
Absolutely. Let's start there. That idea of giving something your all. He often talks about this pivotal advice from his father.
Yeah, when he was at that crossroads, law school versus film school, big decision.
Huge. And his dad's advice wasn't complicated. It was just...
Don't half-ass it.
Yeah,
Simple, direct. It really hits you, doesn't it?
it does. Imagine being in that spot, making this huge life choice, and that's the guidance. It's almost like a challenge.
Yeah, it really is.
And the key thing here, I think, is about more than just effort. It's about avoiding that what if.
Oh, that nagging feeling, like
Yeah.
what could have happened if I'd really tried? That regret.
Exactly. That can stick with you. And he makes this really interesting point about how your own belief, your conviction, how that actually influences how other people react, like his dad.
Right. He felt his dad sensed his conviction, even though he was probably nervous himself about film school.
Yeah, he wasn't just kind of asking for permission,
Uh-huh.
he was saying, this is what I really want to do, even with the uncertainty.
And the don't half-ass it response almost like validated that. His dad saw the drive.
I think so. And you see this commitment thread in his career, right? Landing dazed and confused, for instance.
Totally. It wasn't just luck showing up. He had to open the door and really step through it.
Precisely. And that advice, it wasn't just permission, was it? It came with this weight, this responsibility.
Yeah. He mentioned feeling extra motivation, like not wanting to let his dad down, not wanting to embarrass him.
Which, in a way, probably fueled his courage even more, gave him that extra push.
So, okay, that lays the foundation. Full commitment, which leads kind of naturally to taking risks, stepping out there.
Let's talk about that. His view on taking risks is interesting because he actually sees himself as maybe not taking enough risks.
Which is funny because from the outside, you might see him as pretty bold.
It just shows how different our internal view can be from external perception, What feels huge to us might look different to others.
But then you get the story of dazed and confused. How that actually came about. It was just a chance meeting in a bar.
Right. No agents, no formal audition lined up, just bam. Random encounter.
But okay, chance played a part. But his initiative seems crucial there. He didn't just fade into the background.
No, exactly. He engaged. He showed up the next day ready. Even though it was all pretty informal, the insight there is really about seizing those unexpected moments.
You got to be ready when the door cracks open, even a little bit.
Definitely. And then there's that launchpad line he talks about.
Oh, yeah, that's what I love about these high school girls, man.
Right. They get older, they stay the same age. That wasn't just a line he delivered. It seems like it really unlocked the character for him.
It gave him the key to Wooderson, right? That perspective.
Yeah, a crucial insight. And his first scene,
Yeah.
apparently totally improvised.
Just off the cuff. He pulled from, personal stuff? A Morrison lyric.
And then those words just came out, all right, all right, all right.
Kind of amazing when you think about its origin. Just flowing out in the moment.
It really shows the power of, tacking into your own stuff, experiences, influences right when you need it, and the positive feedback he got right after.
Huge confidence boost, I bet.
Must have been. And it clearly led to more. It really snowballed.
It's such a great example of taking a chance, maybe a small one, putting your heart into it, and seeing where it leads. Unexpected good stuff.
Okay, so let's shift to the real core here. Alchemizing the bad times. Turning the rough stuff into something useful.
Right. And McConaughey's perspective is pretty grounded. He admits those easy platitudes often don't help much when you're actually in it.
Yeah, like this too shall pass. Sounds nice, sure.
But when you're feeling the weight, it doesn't exactly feel like it's passing anytime soon. He gets that.
His approach seems more about this underlying optimism, a kind of faith maybe, a belief that the current struggle isn't the whole story.
That perspective helps lessen its grip, maybe.
I think so. It's not about denying the hardship, but choosing how you frame it. Choosing optimism, choosing responsibility,
Yeah.
even humor.
Okay, let's talk about the responsibility part. That's interesting, taking responsibility even for things that aren't directly his fault.
Yeah, and it's not about self-blame, it seems. It's more like, okay, what factors contributed here? What can I understand or change?
So it's proactive.
Yeah,
Taking ownership empowers you to find solutions, learn from it, instead of just feeling like a victim of circumstance.
exactly. It's about agency.
He also talks about knowing your positive habits.
Right.
Okay? The things you do consistently that help keep you on an even keel.
Yes. Building that foundation. So those valleys, when they come, maybe aren't quite so deep or long-lasting.
It's like preventative maintenance for your well-being, knowing what keeps you running smoothly.
Precisely. Understanding your own patterns.
And I love the humor part. Finding humor even in really tough situations.
Yeah.
That you're going to die MC thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a bit dark, maybe.
A little bit. But it's about perspective, right? Like, okay, this feels huge now. But in the grand scheme of things.
It deflates the problem a bit, makes it less overwhelming. And that other idea, too, thinking about your future self.
Oh, right. Looking back on this current struggle and it being a great story later on.
That's such a powerful reframe, knowing that even the worst stuff can become part of your valuable narrative.
So it's about perspective, looking ahead, and choosing humor as like a default setting. That's interesting.
It's not about being flippant, I don't think. It's more about resilience, cultivating a mindset that can handle shocks.
Being serious when you need to be, but having that underlying lightness.
Yeah, he calls it something like dynamically persistent seriousness, fully engaged, but with that sense of humor ready.
Okay, that makes sense. And it leads nicely into this next bit.
Yeah.
Deconstructing success.
Yeah, this is a great point he makes. We tend to analyze other people's successes.
Right, pick them apart.
But we mostly only analyze our own failures. Why do we do that?
Good question. Maybe we attribute our own successes to luck or external stuff, but failures feel like our fault.
And that asymmetry means we don't really learn from what went right for us. We don't understand the ingredients of our own good times.
So his habit of journaling, writing, even when things are going well, that's a way to fight that tendency.
Totally. It's like, okay, I feel good right now. Why? By writing it down, he can spot the patterns.
What consistencies show up,
Yeah.
like social connections, certain habits, gratitude, faith.
Right. The things that are actually contributing to his well-being.
And the real power there is having that data, that insight, for when you feel yourself slipping off track.
Exactly. It's your personal roadmap back to feeling good. Knowing it's not random, you can actively cultivate those things again.
Okay, let's touch on this idea of the cost of being you.
Yeah.
He talks about aging and this salty task of living lighter but keeping your principles.
Yeah, that sounds like a real balancing act as you get older. How do you stay flexible, not get weighed down by everything?
Resist becoming cynical.
Right, but still hold on to what's fundamentally important to you, your backbone.
And figuring out which battles are worth fighting. Internally, too, right? That inner critic.
Oh, definitely. That can be a tough one. And then there's the Michelangelo effect he mentions.
The idea that the people close to you can see your potential, maybe even better than you can.
And help bring it out, like a sculptor revealing the statue within the stone. That's a powerful thing in relationships.
Having someone who really believes in you pushes you a bit, sees your best self.
And just being a fan of each other, like he says, that mutual support and admiration.
Holding each other accountable, too, especially as life changes and priorities shift. Like having kids, that must reorder everything.
Absolutely. Value systems evolve, and that metaphor he uses, one partner running while the other's walking.
Yeah, I like that.
Right.
Recognizing you won't always be moving at the same speed in a relationship.
It requires patience, understanding, persistence, knowing it's dynamic.
Okay, this feels connected to pivots, big life changes, like his massive pivot away from rom-coms.
Huge. That was an aggressive pivot, as he called it. Walking away from immense success and money, that takes guts.
Real courage, and a strong sense of knowing what you don't want or what's no longer fulfilling.
And it seems like falling in love, starting his family, was a huge catalyst for that. It gave him a new center, a home base.
Yeah, a different kind of significance that maybe made the external validation of the rom-coms less crucial.
And it sounds like his wife, Camilla, was completely supportive. That partnership was key.
Imagine the mental toughness needed, though, during that time when the phone wasn't ringing for the roles he did want.
Right, going without what you previously had in abundance. But he talks about building pride in that endurance.
Yeah, sticking to your guns even when it's hard.
And ironically, that period of absence, of saying no, ended up having positive consequences. It made him a new good idea again.
Sometimes stepping away makes people see you differently when you return.
And he didn't seem afraid of becoming irrelevant in that old role. He understood the cyclical nature of things in Hollywood.
A healthy perspective on fame, maybe? Knowing it ebbs and flows.
He even embraced that feeling of actual irrelevance for a while, resolving not to just go back out of desperation.
And that idea that sometimes the things you don't get end up being better for you in the long run.
It's a hard perspective to hold on to sometimes, but valuable.
He even took that trip, right? To Peru to kind of test himself.
Yeah, stripping away the fame, just being a guy, interacting with strangers who didn't know Matthew McConaughey.
What was the point of that, do you think?
To see if the connections were real, to confirm his own sense of self, separate from the public persona.
Yeah, reinforcing that core identity, knowing who you are underneath it all.
Which ties into this non-deserving complex he talks about, that feeling after hitting it big.
The why me? Yeah.
Exactly. And he recognized it as like a form of false humility, maybe even a coping mechanism.
But a dangerous one, right?
Yeah.
He saw how that feeling of not deserving success could actually lead to self-sabotage.
Yeah, like you subconsciously mess things up because you feel guilty or unworthy. He calls guilt an arrogant notion, which is interesting.
It is. So it's about owning it, all the successes and the failures, not letting that feeling undermine you.
Right. And having a healthy ego. Not arrogance, but being full of yourself in a good way. Knowing and valuing yourself.
Like being someone you'd actually want to hang out with, have a beer with.
Yeah, that kind of self-acceptance and self-respect, not needing constant external validation.
Of course, the flip side is fame itself, the challenges that come with it.
Oh, for sure. The loss of anonymity, that's huge. Privacy gone.
People having opinions about you before they even meet you. Preconceived notions.
Feeling constantly watched, judged. It must be a really strange reality to navigate.
Definitely not something most of us experience.
So let's try to bring this all back together, this whole idea, the alchemy of bad times.
It really feels like it comes down to perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A conscious choice in how you view and respond to difficulties.
Taking responsibility, finding the humor, really digging into why you succeed sometimes, not just why you fail.
Yeah, and that self-awareness piece, understanding your values, what really matters to you.
And then having the courage to make changes, to pivot when your life needs to align better with those values.
It's about seeing those tough experiences, the ones that knock you down.
And not just as obstacles, but as, wow, raw material. Catalysts for growth, maybe?
If you approach them with that intention, that willingness to learn.
Exactly. It's not magic, turning lead into gold instantly. It's about finding the value, the potential for transformation that's already in the challenging experience itself.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive, looking at this alchemy through McConaughey's lens. His life and his thoughts offer so much.
Yeah, hopefully you listening have pulled out some valuable insights for navigating your own challenges, living maybe a bit more intentionally.
Definitely worth taking some time to reflect, maybe think about your own tough times and how you could apply some of these ideas.
Absolutely. Everyone's journey is unique, but the principles can resonate.
See you soon with another guide like this.